Hello YouTube, it's me again, and I want to talk about the situation in the Middle East again. And I want to take it from a different perspective from the previous videos. I want to talk about why I think what we see happening is biblical in nature. I think most people who read the Bible have already made this conclusion. But I want to go into it a little bit deeper. I'm not going to quote the scriptures. I am going to reference concepts that come from the Bible. But I want to talk about the metaphysical aspect of what's going on. So the situation in Syria started after Libya had fallen. Muammar Gaddafi had been killed, and weapons from Libya had been transferred to Turkey. And then Turkey started distributing those weapons to rebels inside of Syria. The Syrian rebellion started, and the Syrian government was ready to take a heavy hand and crush it. And they were prevented from doing so based on the advice from Russia and Iran. So based on advice from those two countries, Syria soft-pedaled the situation, and it quickly escalated to the situation we have today. So although Russia and Iran are helping, they really fan the flames, fueled the fire, and contributed to this outrageous terrorist war that's taking place in Syria. But what I want to talk about is the behavior of all the other governments, the Saudi Arabians, their ability to put together a 40-country coalition to amass troops inside of Saudi Arabia, with some being transferred to Turkey. And then you have the situation where you have the Turks absolutely meddling in the affairs of Syria and contributing to one of the worst humanitarian disasters in the last 100 years. I mean, World War II topped it, but not many other disasters have come close to creating as many refugees as the situation in Syria. They have 4 million external refugees, and they have millions of internal refugees. So internal refugees are the people who have been pushed out of their towns and villages and are living in camps or living in larger Syrian cities, in hotels and shanty towns and whatever. But what you have, right, you have the Saudis and their 40-country coalition. You have the Turks. You have the Jordanians, another Syrian neighbor that has meddled in their affairs, has housed terrorists, trained terrorists, etc. You have the EU, the United States, funding terrorists, etc., etc., etc. And what sticks out in my mind is that the reasons for fighting in Syria could easily be resolved without this situation. So the original reason, which is unspoken, is that Israel wanted Syria neutered so that Hezbollah would not have access to the type of weaponry that they had access to when they defeated Israel in the 2006 war. So a lot of people say, oh, that Israel wasn't defeated. Israel was defeated. They got their butts kicked. They lost a whole battalion of tanks. They lost way more soldiers than they claimed. They claimed roughly about 156 soldiers killed, and the number was way over 500. It may have even gone over 1,000. If you had access to the Israeli press or television, you would have seen their soldiers crying like babies. I mean, it was the most embarrassing defeat that Israel had ever faced. And they were trying their best to neuter Syria so that Hezbollah would be weakened, and then they could use their conventional forces against Hezbollah and hope to wear them down in a war of attrition. The other reason was Syria turned down an offer from Qatar to run a pipeline through Syria to provide natural gas to the West. And the Syrians said no. The Syrians were not going to undermine the Russian pipeline that's going through the Ukraine. So Syria in all of this has been a loyal ally to both Iran and to Russia. And for being so, they've had all of this pressure placed on their society. They are only starting to get the type of support that they should have received earlier in this conflict from their two key partners, Iran and Syria. And Russia. Okay, so the reason, in my humble opinion, this thing is biblical is because once all of these countries set their sights on Syria and things did not go well, the decision making has been poor. As I stated, the Iranians and Russians cautioned the Syrians from taking the proper stance, which led to this thing escalating. Okay? So in my mind, the Most High influenced those decisions, gave them the impression, which at the time I thought that was a terrible decision on the part of Iran and Russia. I thought Syria was being betrayed. And I found myself to be correct. But then you look at the United States and its commitment, you look at Turkey, you look at Saudi Arabia, all of these countries who have been fueling the situation in Syria are almost doing it in an otherworldly manner. The gains are far less than the effort and the vitriol and the determination that they have to crush Syria. It's as if they are no longer in control, because the situation could be resolved very easily. They could simply go to Syria and say, look, we want to do, we want to guarantee that Hezbollah doesn't get any stronger, but we're going to give you assurances that there'll be a non-aggression treaty against Lebanon. So we won't attack them, but we don't want them to get any stronger. And they could have come up with an alternative route for the Qatari pipeline. In fact, they could have possibly negotiated something where they decided not to provide natural gas to Europe, but to take the Qatari natural gas to China, who could consume any excess natural gas or petroleum directed its way. And in fact, if they went through Iran or Iran and Pakistan, they would be able to serve Pakistan, they'd be able to serve China, they'd be able to serve some of the Southeast Asian states. So there were alternative solutions for all of these governments, but they chose not to take them. They've doubled down, tripled down, and they're going even further down in their effort to defeat Syria, which is only causing a concentration of forces from all of the world powers into the area of the Battle of Jehoshaphat. Although they may not be concentrating directly on it, they are within a short car drive away. Damascus to Jehoshaphat is a 2-hour drive. It's not far, okay? So all of these armies, all of this military might is being heavily concentrated. The navies of the UK are now in the Balkans. The Americans have fleets in the Mediterranean, along with the Russians, along with the Turks, along with the Israelis. There is so much firepower in the eastern Mediterranean that it is mind-boggling. The number of atomic warheads in those areas are once again mind-boggling. The concentration of anti-air missiles batteries is mind-boggling on both sides. They line the Turkish border, and they are all throughout Syria. They're in the Mediterranean on ships in the Russian fleet. So you have a situation where if the powder keg goes off and if warfare occurs, it will be nuclear. They'll probably use tactical nukes. And it will be devastating, and um, it will be impossible to contain. So let's just imagine this is what will happen if the Turks and Saudis invade into Syria. The Russians are going to respond with tactical nukes. That's the only option that they have, so they will do that. Once that occurs, you're going to see a heavy attempt by the NATO powers to destroy the Russian forces in the Middle East. And the Russians are going to fight that, and that's going to lead to the use of tactical nukes inside of Turkey, as well as in some of the NATO countries bordering Russia, such as Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, Poland. Those countries are going to be directly attacked by Russia with tactical nuclear weapons. The Russians already have nuclear submarines off the coast of the United States on the eastern part of the country, and the Chinese have brought in their nuclear subs on the western side. Once those nuclear weapons go off inside of Eastern Europe, in NATO countries, then the nuclear war is on. Now the Russians are trying to convince the world that they're only going to attack military bases. The Chinese are doing the same thing. If you notice, a couple of weeks back, a press report came out where the Chinese said we're only going to attack the West Coast from Seattle down to San Diego. We're not going to attack the Midwest. The Russians have said we're only going to attack military installations in the Midwest. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to do a couple of things. They're trying to, one, ease the concerns of people in the heartland of the United States. But what I really think they're trying to do is they're trying to create political friction in the United States. If the war starts, they want Midwestern states, heartland states, to somehow isolate themselves and not contribute resources or political will to this war. And I think it has a good chance of winning. It's not something that most people are thinking about, but their lives aren't currently under threat as far as most of them know. But once they do know, and once the shooting war does start, if they think they can somehow isolate or insulate themselves from it, I think there's a good chance that could occur. But the point that I'm trying to make is that countries are moving into the situation, and it doesn't seem to make as much sense as one would think. Some people say they need World War III for the dollar collapse and to usher in the New World Order. They may think that. I often question what will they rule if a nuclear war takes place, given their secular thinking. Now, as an Israelite and a believer in the Bible, I believe there'll be protected zones that will not be affected by all of this. And I think that from my perspective, all of this, and my perspective is that of an Israelite who believes in the Bible, I'm of the opinion that these countries are going to destroy themselves and create a power vacuum that is meant to be filled by my people. And it will be done by the grace of the Most High, and we will have the wisdom from King David, and we will rule the world. We will rehabilitate or lead the rehabilitation and reconstruction of the world, and I believe that everything is coming into place to lead to that. Now, I don't know how long it's going to take. It's going to happen when it happens, but it's going to happen in most of our lifetimes. And when I say that, I mean soon, very soon. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Wanted to share them. Would love to hear your comments. That's it. Please, if you like the video, click on the likes, and if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. I would appreciate it very much. Thank you.